Hi, welcome back. In this one, we're going to talk a little bit about the process, the planning process itself, the steps maybe need to go through, some of the basic documents that we would find in a waterfall approach, which we're basically talking about. So let's get started. Overall, if you look at the planning process, the first step that's quite important and quite crucial actually is to understand the expectation that the organization or the customer has on the project. And the reason we focus on this is part of the expectation management. What are the expectations on the IT system that we're trying to implement? Are those in line with what we feel that we can deliver within a time frame and budget and so on? I mean, it's important to really get a grasp for, are the expectations viable? Can we actually live up to them? Do we have a chance to be successful? Because in this first stage, if the expectations are wrong, it's going to be really hard for us. No matter what we do, the product is going to be seen as a failure if the expectations are way too high, right? And this is quite common in IT because a lot of people we've traditionally sold IT as, the solution to a lot of problems, if not all problems, but, quite a few. And thus we've created an atmosphere and a culture where people have good and high expectations on IT investments, which is probably one of the reasons why people seem to think, and also with some, I mean, they're right in some sense, that IT products have a really hard time living up to what they promise, right? We also need to move on and expect and identify who among senior manager has the most interest in this, good or bad. I mean, there's going to be senior managers who like the product. There's going to be senior managers who dislike the project. It's important to identify both. And also at this stage, start looking at what have we done before. Are there any products that are similar? What's not so typical about this project, so that we can start compiling a historical set of projects that we can maybe get some aid from, get some help with estimates from, and so on and so forth, right? Then the time comes for the initial meeting, and the key is to get all the senior, or I wouldn't say senior, but the important stakeholders on board, the customer, inside organization, and so on, right? So that we get a good start of the product, so that people feel like this product has started, that people are on board with the product, and so on. And the primary goal of this meeting is to understand the scope, right? What are we going to do, and what are we not going to do, in accordance with the definitions we used in the previous recording. And we fix those, all right? So we temporarily fix the scope and say, this is what we're going to do, and we won't do this and that, right? And also inform the customer, depending on which model we use, the customer involvement and the stakeholder involvement is going to be different. Some products like Agile require a big part and a big involvement from the customer, and other ones require less, like the waterfall model, for example. But it's important at an early stage in the discussions around the products that everybody involved has a good grasp of what their responsibilities are with regards to delivering the final product or service. All right, so let's move on. The product plan. Uh, Basically, this is a map, right? It takes us from start to finish, from point A to point B, and this is the document the product manager adheres to and follows and manage the product from. It's important to understand that this document we create it in the beginning, but it is a living document, so it has to be changed, it has to be altered and adjusted so that it always, at any point in time, depicts reality, right? I mean, it is, in many respects, if you choose the waterfall approach, the lifeline of the project. It contains all the details, what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, and so on, right? And there's basically two ways to handle changes, right? We adjust the plan or we change reality. It's just a matter of those two things, and which one is most suitable depends on the situation, right? So the project plan is the lifeline. It's a map from A to B. And this project plan can contain many different types of documents, as you can see here. We have a master plan, maybe we have an action plan, work breakdown structures, responsibility charts, and so on and so forth. The list could be made endless. And what good and experienced seasoned product managers have a good grasp on is what documents are essential and what are not. What do I need to do and which can be ignored? Because they all take time to develop, they have to be updated, they have to be followed, and so on. So we should keep the number of documents, the number of controlling documents to a minimum. Right? So let's take a look at some of these. The action plan, for example, that's a separate recording. We're going to talk about that, where we also talk about the work breakdown structure. But let's take a look at the master plan and see what that is. All right? So the master plan have many different parts, of course. There's an overview. We tend to call this executive overview. I mean, it's the reason why we call it that is because it's built for executives, for senior managers. They don't really want to read through the whole master plan. They just want to get a grasp of what the product is about. So this is kind of a summary. It briefly describes the project, what it's supposed to deliver, what are the key milestones, or in other words, significant events where we deliver maybe a part of the product or something like that. Why do we do it? What's the expected profitability? Has it an impact on competition or whatever? And like I said, it's a summary intended for senior managers. Objectives, right? What are the objectives of this project? What's the mission statement? Moving on, we see that we have a general approach. What kind of technical approach? How are we going to run the project? What's if this is a product among many? Is there any relationships with other projects? If we, for example, need to take other products into consideration as part of a portfolio, right? Inside a department or something like that. And also what's different from the standard practices that we use. Most companies have a standard practice. This is how we run projects. Is there anything we need to deviate from here? Is this a unique project that we need to change the way we usually work or the methods we usually use because of necessity and because that's a better way of delivering this type of project? So this discussion is worth having and describe here. All the contractual aspects of this project, if we have third-party vendors that we rely upon, consultancy firms, the agreements with them should be put into place here as well. What are the reporting requirements? How often are we supposed to inform the customer of the status of the project and so on, right? And also if there are any review dates. Big projects tend to have this external reviews where maybe an external company comes in and audits your project, and this is not normally something to worry about. You just run the product well and it shouldn't be a problem. The idea here is not to look for faults or to find problems, rather to identify things that could be done better, more efficiently, or technological changes that would benefit the project and so on. So see this as something good and something that can help us. Continuing with the master plan, we would find things like the schedule, maybe a Gantt chart with milestones, what type of resources we need in this project, and what type of personnel. What skills are required? Do we need to train? This is normally not something that projects do. Rather, we rely quite heavily on the resources we can get from the normal organization. And some interesting things about legal issues. Are there any legal requirements that we need to adhere to or similar? right? So this is quite a big document, as you might can imagine. Each of these sections could be a document by itself. So the product master plan should maybe be seen as a collection of documents rather than just one. In concluding the master plan, we also talk about evaluation methods, how we will do evaluations, how we will monitor and collect data from when we actually run the project to see how long various tasks take, how much time have we spent, budgets, and so on, right? The normal way to do this is to use time reporting. All people in the products would report time spent on various activities, maybe at the end of the week, and the project manager can then tally those and get a status of the project that would then be saved and checked against the plan and so on. And also we start already here to look at what are the potential problems, what are the risks we see, how can we handle those, right? So the master plan, like I said, should be seen as a collection of documents. It is our roadmap. It is the document or the collection of documents that govern how we would run the project, what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it. So it's quite an important document. Obviously, there is a lot of information about this topic as well. And if you want to know more about this, there are a couple of links in this lesson where you can read and kind of explore the product master plan on your own. So check those out if you want.